Woo! What's going on, guys? Owen Form coming at you guys today with another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about a little bit about the combine and a little bit about Anthony Richardson, the Florida Gators quarterback that's getting super hyped up right now, and a guy that absolutely destroyed, he crushed the combine. Now, this is going to be a draft profile. This isn't going to be not going to be really getting into too much about his strengths and his weaknesses. I'll talk a little bit about it. I'm gonna rattle off his some of his numbers at Florida and some of his combine numbers. He came measuring in at 6'4", 244 pounds at the combine. He played at about 236, so he gained some muscle. The kid is an absolute specimen of a human being. Played it at like around 236, 244 at the combine. So he was a 3-year guy at Florida, used sparingly for the first 2 years. 1 year as a starter, 2022, obviously. His career at Florida, 3,105 yards, 24 touchdowns, 133.6 rating, 15 picks, and a 54.7% completion percentage, which is terrible, by the way. And he rushed for 1,116 yards, 6.9 yards per carry, 12 touchdowns, had over 600 plus yards in 2022, and a handful of touchdowns. Now, his combine numbers, he came in, like I said, ripped, ready to roll, ready, locked, loaded, came in looking fit as a fiddle. His 40 was 4.43, just under guys like Michael Vick and like RG3 back in the day. He 40.5 inches on the vertical, 10 foot 9 inches on the broad jump, the horizontal, which was all records, by the way, for jumps, not the 40 time, but running a 4.43 at 244 pounds is absolutely freaking amazing, by the way. Now you're gonna say, now we're going to talk about, well, man, what does his 40, what does his vertical, what does his horizontal broad jump, what does that have anything to do with him being a quarterback? Well, I understand that. I totally get that, but it's about explosiveness. They want to see if he's explosive and see if he can get out of the pocket. And we all know this kid can get out of the pocket, okay? It's got nothing to do with his actual quarterback skills. We know that. And like I said, this isn't a draft profile, but when you evaluate this kid, I'll break it down real quick. He is a superb athlete, okay? A superb athlete who needs to hone in on his quarterback skills, his footwork, when to throw hard, when not to throw hard. He throws dots, maybe a little bit too much. Not saying he can't make every NFL throw, but he does have issues with that. And he came out with an interesting quote too, saying, I don't care if someone complains that I throw the ball too hard, they better catch it. That's a little bit of an issue with me there. I'm not going to drag him through the mud because I've been a guy in the past, and I did this years ago, before I even had a YouTube channel. I would back Matt Stafford up because that was the big thing about Matt Stafford. His first, how many years in the league? Whenever he had Calvin, it seemed like Matt Stafford changed his style of play when Calvin retired. Became a little more of a quarterback, a little bit more aware, got a little more involved, I think, in film room. We all know there was a big thing about Matt Stafford his first how many years in Detroit that he didn't really like to watch film. He didn't want a quarterback coach. He didn't want this, he didn't want that. He thought he could do everything on his own. He's a little bit immature as the Detroit Lions professional quarterback. He was. And I backed him up hook, line, sinker all the time. And I used to say the same kind of thing back in the day. Well, these guys get paid to catch the football. You know, that was me being a little bit less immature about the game. Maybe a little bit more ignorant on my part. I wasn't critical enough of Matt Stafford. I really wasn't. When I go back and look at it, I think Matt Stafford's one of my favorite Lions of all time, and I still think he's the best Lions quarterback that we've ever had. Obviously, he's broken tons of records. He's done this and that, yada, yada, yada. And I always thought we could have won with Stafford, and we just didn't do it right around him. I still think that to this day. I think if we would have had this regime with Stafford, I think we would be a better football team. I just really do. And that's not a knock on Goff. That's not a knock on Goff. I'm not making this anything about Goff because Goff had a great 2022 for us. I'm not even putting that under anybody under a microscope right there. I'm just saying Stafford, I thought, got the raw deal here, but I should have been a little more critical of him back in the day. That's all I'm really saying. But stuff like this, when he comes out with quotes like this, Anthony Richardson saying, you better catch the damn ball, doesn't matter how hard I throw it. That's a little bit worrisome to me because when a coach tells him that, because a quarterback coach is going to tell him straight up, well, hey, man, you need to, put a less zip on that, put a little more rainbow underneath that. Like you can't be zipping balls 5-10 yards on guys on short intermediate routes. And that's where his problem is. That's where Anthony Richardson has a gigantic problem throwing the ball. Doesn't have really too big of an issue throwing the ball deep. We've seen what he did at the Combine. I know it was the pajama Olympics, the pajama party, guys in their underwear, man, looking fantastic, running all around looking like athletes. That's just, there's not saying there's not pressure, but there's not as much pressure, I don't think. You got no one coming after you, really. You got no pressure of defensive players getting in your face as a quarterback. These guys are running around freely. So, and that's not saying that these guys don't have any pressure whatsoever, but it's a little bit of a different pressure, in my opinion. But back to Richardson, this whole thing of him coming to Detroit, I don't know where I stand on this. I really don't. I don't hate the kid, and I don't love the kid. I really don't. There's a couple quarterbacks I liked before him, and I'm not even going to get into who I liked before him. Now, he's a specimen. That's what he is. And everyone talks about, well, you can draft him and you can sit him for a year or two. Okay, that's not an issue there. Because I don't think Ben Johnson, because people will say, well, how can you draft him when Ben Johnson caters to a kind of a pocket, a drop back pocket passer quarterback like Jared Goff, a guy that's not mobile, who's not going to run away from anybody. That's not the Ben Johnson style. Well, newsflash, Ben Johnson's not going to be around probably next year. There's probably a good chance he's gone. I know he came out and said he wants to win in Detroit. I don't think they're going to win 2023. I think they're going to make the playoffs. So I am predicting that, but that's a whole other video. But say they did draft Anthony Richardson, instantly you're probably getting about, man, right now it seems like it's almost 60-40 Jared, like a 60-40 against him coming. That's how I kind of feel. I could be off on the numbers, but that's what I'm kind of feeling. There's fans that think that Anthony Richardson is the cream of the crop coming out. Then there's another fan base of the Detroit Lions that think he's absolutely pure garbage. Then there's a fan base that's kind of in the middle. And there's not even really a middle fan base. Myself, I don't really know where I am. I guess you could say I am in the middle. Because personally, I don't want a quarterback in the first round. This kid's going in the first round. This kid probably catapulted himself into top 5 just because of the Combine. And that's what always makes me worried about the Combine. I love the Combine. It's a sniff of football. Again, after the Super Bowl, we finally get some football going. We get to see these college kids running around and making some money. We obviously see some college kids losing some money too because of the Combine. This kid earned money. He is going to make money now. He catapulted himself into, personally, I think he's going to go 100% top 10. But he could go top 5 now. The Seattle Seahawks thing right now is kind of messed up, though. They just paid Geno Smith like $35 million a year. I don't know the details of that contract. There's got to be an out somewhere. But him getting $35 million is an absolute joke, by the way. And I don't want to veer off on a whole other thing, but buckle up, Lions fans. Buckle up. If that guy is going to get $35 million, Be prepared for what Jared Goff is going to get. Be prepared. And that's what petrifies me the most. That's what petrifies me the most. And that's why I think there's that fan in me, or there's just that guy in me that thinks that Holmes could go quarterback early, just because of stuff like this. Just because, you're seeing Derek Carr is going to get 30. I think he's actually losing some money, but the Saints are giving him $38 million or something like that a year. I forget what it was. Maybe I'm misquoting that number from the New Orleans Saints. He's got a 4-year deal. And then you got the Geno Smith at 35 per for 3 years. It's mind-boggling to me. But these guys are getting paid. So is there a possible connection that Anthony Richardson or any type of quarterback is going to come here in the first round? Just because of something like that. Yes, we have one quarterback on the roster. We do. We got one quarterback on the roster. There's a quarterback coming, guys. I made this. I talked about it before. There's a quarterback coming, I think, in the draft. Now that's either through 1 through 7. I don't have a clue. But there's one coming in free agency. And there's probably going to be another one grabbed before training camp just to have 3 or 4 bodies in there. You got to give these guys time to rest. So we could see about 4 guys on there, possibly cutting 1 or 2 guys by the start of September for the first game for week 1 of the season. But this Anthony Richardson thing is getting so out of control. It's getting very much out of control, and I don't have a clue what this team's going to do. I don't have a clue what this team's going to do, but is there a possible connection here? Is there a possible connection that they're going to fall in love? I don't think the Lions are going to move up for him. I think they could possibly just wait there at 6 if they grabbed him. I'm not saying they need to grab him. I'm not saying that they need to grab him. I'm just wondering what Brad Holmes is going to do, and I think it's a really good conversation to have. Because it's a little bit worrisome, because he's not going to, because like I said, the Seattle thing kind of messed everything up for the Lions. I was hoping that a Jalen Carter or a Will Anderson kind of slipped to us at 6. That's what I was hoping. I want defense. I don't want us to draft a corner. I don't want us to draft a running back at 6. I don't want a guard at 6. I want defense, but I don't want a corner. I'd rather have a linebacker. And everyone says a linebacker is a luxury. It's not a luxury when you don't have one. We have an up and coming one in Malcolm Rodriguez, but he's still raw. He's, what I mean? He's a 6th round pick. Played well above his draft grade, well above his draft status. But I still think we're weak at linebacker. We're possibly bringing in Anzalone. Derek Barnes is still a mystery. He's a question mark to me. And after that, flip a coin. I don't know what's going on there. So I would rather they draft a linebacker at 6, but that might be too early too. I would love for it to be a D lineman like a Carter or an Anderson, but you don't know what Chicago's going to do. I have a feeling they're going to trade down to maybe 4 or 5, 4 with the Colts possibly. Maybe with the Colts are going to grab a quarterback. Houston's going to grab a quarterback. I would think, Cardinals, it looks like probably it's going to be Will Anderson maybe, and then or a Carter. And then you see the Bears drop down to 4 maybe, because with the Colts, they're drafting either Will Anderson or Carter. And then there you go. Then 5, Seattle. What are they going to do? They're probably not going to take a quarterback. They still could, because Geno is in his 30s. He's 30-something years old, and that contract needs to be looked at. But it makes me worried. It makes me worry what the Lions are going to do at 6. Would they grab a guy like a Richardson? Would they grab a guy like a Will Levis, a CJ Stroud? Are they going to do something like that? It's making me a little bit nervous on what's going to happen at 6. But this Florida Gators kid, man, this Anthony Richardson kid is getting super hyped up. He's getting hyped up because of his athletics. When you watch his combine, like I said earlier, him throwing the long ball was easy motion, cannon. But then you saw him throwing 5 to 10 yards. He missed a few. And he misses them badly. He misses them very badly. He's wildly inaccurate. I was listening to Mike Valente, 97 won the ticket coming home from work today, and they were talking about him and his short intermediate throws, and he had, I think, the worst in college football from 5 to 10 yards. His completion percentage was like subpar 50%. And talking about him as a first round pick and a top 10 pick, possibly a top 5 pick, he was saying it was absolutely asinine. He was saying he loves his measurables, that he could be a guy that, but the Lions probably are not ready to do it. And I'm almost weighing that way. But I trust Brad Holmes. It makes me a little bit worrisome. What's going on here, because he is a risky move. He is a dice roll. Anthony Richardson, man, he's got all the tools that you want, the size, the speed, the arm. But there is a lot of work to do with this kid, a ton of work to do with this kid. And is he going to be a kid that wants to be coached? You can't be coming out saying, I don't care if people complain about my arm, being too strong, being thrown too hard, catch the ball. That makes me a little bit nervous as well. I like the kid, but I don't know about grabbing him at 6, man. I really don't. I'd almost rather go another quarterback. I really would. But it's starting to heat up. It's starting to heat up, and it's going to get even hotter. So, hell of an athlete. Don't know too much about his quarterback skills, man. He needs to tune that up. Huge. Not just tune it up. He needs to almost completely fix it. And that's not a shot on him. That's not saying the kid is terrible, because he's raw. He's a 1-year starter at Florida. He was used sparingly his first 2 years. For his second year, got in a little bit more. He had a 59.3% completion percentage. Still terrible, but much better than what he did in his third year at like 53.6 or something like that. Overall, he had a 54.7 as a 3-year guy at Florida. So, he did improve a little bit in his second year, but it was sparingly. It was a small little window. So the talk is about Anthony Richardson. This probably won't be my first video on him. It's going to get real interesting. It's going to get real warm about this kid. So I think it's a good subject. What do you guys think, man? Anthony Richardson. It's going to be interesting, man. But I want to say thank you for everybody tuning in, everybody watching my vids. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button at the bottom right. Don't forget to hit the notification bell up top. Don't forget to like, comment, share this out. What do you guys think, man? There's a beast in Florida. Could he be making his way to Detroit? Is that connection there? Time will tell. Tick, tick, tick. April, baby. But thanks, guys. One pride. Go Lions. Boom. Woo!